Hello ladies, it's Mr. O'Sullivan. Today we're going to be doing lesson 2-5, angle pairs part 2. So this is basically a build off of what we did yesterday in finding our missing angles. So today's learning target is I will again apply my understanding of angle relationships to calculate a missing angle measure. So just because yesterday we learned about all those different type of angle rules doesn't mean you can forget about them. We need to make sure we remember them. So make sure you have yesterday's video or yesterday's notes handy while we complete today's questions. Today's assignment is just this ed puzzle. You will not have a delta math. You just have this assignment, so don't worry about completing a delta math. So the first pair of angles we're going to be looking at are vertical angles. Vertical angles are very special. They're going to pop up very often in this course, so please make sure you're familiar with them. The definition or fact about vertical angles is angles that are opposite of each other when two lines intersect. Vertical angles are always equal to each other. I know I have vertical angles if I make the letter V. So what I'm going to do right now is I can show you that this angle right here is congruent to this angle right here. So I can name them 1 and 2. And we have a semicircle and a tick mark to show that they're congruent. I can also say that my other pair of angles is congruent as well. So this angle and this angle are congruent because they both make the letter V across from each other. So angle 3 and angle 4. So angle 1 congruent to angle 2. Angle 3 congruent to angle 4. And that's vertical angles. Now what we're going to do is we're going to look at angles at a point. So if I look, A and C are not vertical to each other, and A and B are not vertical to each other. There's nothing that's vertical. So let's look at our fact about angles at a point. Angles around a single point will add up to 360 degrees. So basically I can draw a little circle like this and say that A plus B plus C is going to be equal to 360 degrees. So you're going to basically have an equality or an equation. All right. Find the measure of each labeled angle. Make sure that you give a reason for your solution. For number 1, I have angle 1. Well, I know angles on the same line add up to 180. So I'm just going to do 180 minus 145. What's 180 minus 145? It's 35, and that would be what I would put in for angle 1. I would do 35 degrees. And my reasoning, angles on a line add up to 180. Just like that. Angles on a line add up to 180. Now let's do number 2. Well, if I look at number 2, I have a 40-degree angle here, and I know that 40 degrees has to be where angle 2 is because they are vertical angles. So angle 2 is 40 degrees. And the reasoning is vertical angles. Now I need to find number 3. Well, number 3 is very similar to our first example. I know angles on the same line add up to 180. So what's 180 minus 40? 180 minus 40 is 140. Very good. And my reasoning would be the exact same as my previous example. Angles on the line add up to 180. Now I want to find the measure of angle 4. Try to find the measure of angle 4 by yourself. Yep, the measure of angle 4 is 140 degrees because vertical angles. Now for our next example, for number 5, that one's a little different. But we know that if I draw a circle around this, it will add up to 360. So if my whole is 360 and a part is 122, what does angle 5 have to be? So 360 minus 122 gives you 238 degrees. That's your final answer. And your reasoning would be angles around a point add up to 360 degrees. Let's go on to our next set of problems where we actually have to solve for some equations. So in each of the following images, we're going to want to solve for x. We are not going to find our angle. We just want to solve for x. In this example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight the areas that I have information about. So I have information about my 3x plus 2 and my 47. If I look closely, I can see that they're actually vertical to each other. what do I know about vertical angles? They are what to each other? They're equal. So if I wanted to find x, I would just set this angle equal to this angle and solve. So I get 3x plus 2 equals 47. To solve for x, what would I do next? I would subtract 2 from both sides. So subtract 2, subtract 2. I get 3x equals 45. And then my next step is to divide by 3. So I get x is equal to 15. And that's your final answer. Let's go on to our next example. In our next example, we don't have any vertical angles. What we really have is add up to 360. So if I draw a circle around this, I get 360 degrees. So what I'm going to do is add up all these angles and set them equal to 360. So I have x minus 32 plus 40 plus 294 equals 360. Go ahead and solve that equation for x. If you solve that equation correctly, you should have gotten x to be equal to 58. You combine your like terms of negative 32, 40, and 294 to get 302. To get rid of my positive 302, I subtract by 302 on both sides, and I get x equals to 58. Now, number 3. Number 3 is a straight line. I know angles on a straight line add up to what? 180 degrees. So my equation for this would be 2x plus 3 plus 3x plus 2 equals 180. My first step is to combine my like terms, so I combine 2x and 3x and get 5x. Combine my 3 and my 2 and get a 5. Now I subtract by 5 on both sides. And I get 5x equals 175. And then my final step is to divide by 5. And I get x equals 35 as your final answer. Let's go on to these next examples, where in a few of them we actually have x and y thrown in here. So if I look at this visual, you might have thought you saw some vertical angles, but I actually don't have any vertical angles because I don't make a perfect V. So whenever you can't make vertical angles, your go-to should be angles around a point add up to 360. So what I'm going to do is actually add all these angles up and set them equal to 360. So what I really am dealing with is x plus 2x plus 35 plus 85 equals 360s. My first step is, do I have parentheses? I don't have parentheses, so now I have to combine my like terms. So I combine my x and my 2x and get 3x. I combine my 35 and my 85 and get 120. And that's equal to 360. To get rid of my plus 120, I subtract by 120. And I get 3x equals 36 minus 12 is 24, add a 0. And now I divide by 3. And I get x equals 80 as my final answer. It's not asking you to find your angles, it's just asking you to find x and y. There's no y, so I'm done with this question. Now let's look at number 5. Number 5, you have a variety of ways to solve it. The first way I'm going to actually do, I'm going to just solve it one way, but if you can find a different way of solving it, I'll give you some extra credit. I know that angles on the same line add up to 180. So I can do 5x plus 45 plus 3x minus 25 equals 180. Go ahead and solve that equation for x. If you solve that equation correctly, you would combine your 5x with your 3x and your 45 with your minus 25. So after combining the like terms, you get 8x plus 20 equals 180. I subtract by 20 on both sides to get 8x equals 160, and I divide by an 8 to get x equals 20. Here's the thing. I now need to find my y value. So here's what you can do. You know, again, that angles on the same line add up to 180. So 3x minus 25, 2x minus 5, and y have to add up to 180. But here's the issue. We don't really need to solve for x because we already solved for x. We've found x to be 20, so let's plug that back in. 2 times 20 minus 5 is 35. 3 times 20 minus 25 is 35 degrees. So I have a 35-degree angle and a 35-degree angle, and y equal to 180. So I'm going to do y plus 35 equals 180. I combine my like terms. So I get y plus 70 equals 180. And then I subtract by 70 on both sides and get y equals 110. That's your final answer. X is 20 and y is 110. Now let's try to do the next example. I want to find the value of x. Well, you have 3 angles. This is from yesterday. They're right angle. They're complementary to each other. So they're going to add up to 90. So my equation would look like x plus 36 plus 40 equals 90. What's my first step in solving this equation? Yes, combine your like terms. So I do 36 and a 40. So I get x plus 76 equals 90. What's my next step? Subtract by 76, subtract by 76. What's 90 minus 76? 14. X is 14. That's your final answer. Number 7. Number 7 is a challenge. Let's look at how to approach it. This one's actually going to require you to use your basic knowledge of systems of equations. So, what I'm going to do is I know that this angle has to be congruent to this angle because of vertical angles. So I know that 2x equals y minus x. Well, I want to get my x's on one side and my y's on the other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add x to both sides. And I'm going to get y equals 3x. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to now go back to my problem and put that in. So I know that this is 3x plus x, which is 4x. 3x minus x is 2x. And that can help me solve my problem. I know that angles on the same line add up to 180. So I can do 4x plus 2x equals 180. Four x plus 2x is 6x. And then I divide by 6. So x is equal to 30. Now I need to find y. Well, here's how I could approach it. I know that I'm going to do a little erasing. I know that x is equal to 30. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my 30, zoom in, so 2 times 30 is 60. So this angle has to be 60 degrees, which means this angle is also 60 degrees because they're congruent, which means that angles on the same line have to add up to 180. So if I do this to 180, 180 minus 60 is 120. So I'm not saying y is 120, I'm saying that this angle is 120. So what we can do is we can do y plus x equals 120. Y plus x equals 120. The thing is, we said x was 30, so y plus 30 equals 120. And then to get rid of a plus 30, I do subtraction, so I subtract by 30. So I get y equals 90 as my final answer. So I can say x is 30 and y is 90. If you have any questions, please email myself or Miss Daniel. Have a great day, ladies.